Okay, so welcome everybody to the talk of Anton Antonov today. I would like to say just some sentences about him. So he obtained a doctorate in statistical modeling in 2016 and completed a CQF program in 2019. And in addition, he has more than 10 years of experience in the areas of quantitative finance and fintech. And now we're very excited about his talk about Into the New Reality of 2022.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for your interest in this talk. I will be speaking on behalf of dxFeed Solutions, that is headquartered here in Munich and specializes in market data and financial technology. In particular, I wanted to highlight the new business line that we introduced recently, and we've been active in this field for almost 5 years already, maybe even a bit more. And that is related to index administration, calculation, and governance. In particular, my goal would be perhaps to shift your perspective on what a modern index may look like. So, when we started that endeavor, we were interested in what a successful index is and why is that. So, what are the traits, the essential traits? So the first example that comes to mind is naturally when we are speaking about market index, a market index would be associated with S&P 500 first. That is a very natural reaction for almost everybody, I guess. And I'm just borrowing some facts from the fact sheet of that index. It was created some time ago, and they claim that this is the first market cap weighted index, which is probably indeed so. And they also state that it covers almost 80% of the market capitalization available in the US market. Presumably, I was not able to verify that claim exactly, but I think they imply stock market, equity market. The construction of the index is very straightforward. It contains US companies, has some filters on market capitalization, the free float factor, and the trading volume. And after that, it is aggregated into a total index that tracks the whole market cap. There are also some examples where we have Dow Jones and NASDAQ 100, and they are also associated with a market data index. The first association can be also one of those. But at the same time, they exhibit a high correlation, all the three and the others as well. And they are less broad, presumably less broad than the S&P 500. So we're focusing on the S&P 500, but keeping in mind that other alternatives also exist. So when we started, we wanted to answer the question, why is it popular? So what's inside that? What are the traits of a good index? And trait number one is utility. And by that we mean that you open basically anything related to market data, and you will see S&P 500 will be probably the first quantity that you will see. In addition to that, the biggest utility that the index has is that it compresses the whole market into one number. That's the whole power, the whole magic behind that is. It is reported everywhere, so that is why it is universally adopted, because it has a great utility in it. And in addition, it's not only the single value, but it's a timeline, and so that is naturally comparable with itself in the past. And you can see all sorts of headlines everywhere. 27% gain, that's a lot. It's very easy to project onto yourself, and what exactly does that mean? 27% for the whole year, that's a lot, that's very good. For instance, falling 70%, oh, that's painful. And so far, it not only references the future outcomes, perhaps, but also the historical perspective, so that it could fall 70%. It has already fallen 40% year to date, and it is very clear what is behind that statement. All right, the trait number two that we are highlighting here is clarity. It is very straightforward what people imply when they are imagining the index S&P 500. Sometimes they say that's the biggest stocks in the US market. Sometimes they imply even the whole US stock market, which is not entirely true, but a good approximation at least. And sometimes even claim that the investor sentiment is somehow behind the index, which is even further from the truth, but still, some people say that, and they link what is happening with the S&P 500 to what is happening in the whole world. in the whole modern financial world. It also has a very clear causality between how the index behaves and how the prices behave. So it's very straightforward, it's very evident, so I don't even have to mention that, but if prices are growing, the index is growing as well. And it is very simple, but at the same time, if you ever try to explain to someone what is the relation between a bond yield and a bond price, you will know that this is a very nice trait. And also, the implication of the market cap is that bigger stocks have bigger impact. This is also important, and it means that it has significant advantages over, say, Dow Jones. But on a very broad level, it just represents a very broad market investment portfolio. And that is why it is so appealing, because most people associate S&P 500 with the gains from that portfolio they could use to benefit from growth or to protect themselves from losses. On the technical side, some people would be, I would say, puzzled if they found out how many stocks are there currently in the S&P 500. Does anyone from the audience has any guesses? 500. Not really. Surprisingly, 504 at the moment. This is correct. The thing is, the point I wanted to make with that is that the technical details are moved away from everyone's view. They don't matter at all. And all the corporate actions that are an essential part of the maintenance of the index are also removed from public view so that you just treat that as a value. You don't care about all the technical details that are happening in the market, which is something that would be interesting for someone who is looking to reproduce the index. And that is why, as a side note, I wanted to mention that the corporate action tracking system would transparently refer to any event that's happening and how exactly it influences the index is something that we built internally. And if someone is looking to see what exactly is going to happen, they are able to do so by using that system that we are reproducing internally to make sure that the index maintenance is always correct and reliable. But that was a side note. If you're not interested in all the technical details about corporate actions, you will be able to just consume the index. All right, trait number 3 here is benchmarking. It is also very useful and recognizable worldwide, to the extent that it even spawned a lot of similar indices, the so-called country representative indices. For instance, here in Germany, that would be a DAX. It has a very strong track record, and it exists for a long time already. And that is why the data is also readily available. So it has become already an industry-wide performance benchmark to measure any portfolio against that benchmark. In particular, there is a measure of systematic risk, beta, that is always, or rather frequently, reported in portfolio and fund management, especially when they want to highlight that these index or a hedge fund or a portfolio or a manager, they consistently beat the S&P 500. They would report that systematic risk as well. In academia, a capital asset pricing model is also introducing and speaking, that is the central part of it, the systematic risk. And for anyone interested in that, you can take a look at the introduction by William Sharpe in his Nobel lecture, where he directly references the beta and the notion behind it. Last but not least, tradability. It is not only a quantity that just shows something, it could be useful, but still, when you link that to something that you can directly profit from, this is very compelling. For instance, there are a lot of mutual funds on ETF and even futures and options gradually evolving in time, allowing you to gain more and more exposure from that particular index. For instance, if we open just any website that presents all the ETFs, you can see there are a lot of them, and the whole market cap of them is also huge and is growing all the time. However, despite all those wonderful traits, there is always room for more, and based on our experience, this could be described as follows. On the level of the methodology, the S&P 500 is overly concentrated on the biggest stocks. Here's something that they even quote in the fact sheet. Top 10 stocks, that's already 27% of the index. This is a huge part in the very top. And our own internal analysis shows that the top 100 stocks, it's 72%. And just take half of the index and you'll reproduce the 88% of the market cap on that. So you argue that if you just take simply 100 stocks, you will get a correlation of 99.9 with a very good approximation of the index. For some people, there is important to see and to gain exposure to smaller caps, mid-cap and the smaller caps. So the S&P 500 may be considered too broad. They would be interested in narrowing it down and looking at a particular segment in that. So there is always demand for more and additional index ideas here. There is also some methodological peculiarity when it comes to the selection principle. It's not a purely rule-based index, so it is not easy to just program that and so that it will be reproduced 100% the composure of the index, because there is an oversight committee in that. A smaller point, but still worth being noticed. A point about corporate actions. They offer some exposure to that to the general public, but it's not so easy to reproduce that. And people who are interested in just replicating the portfolio would inevitably be challenged to be able to reproduce everything that is happening with the index in their own portfolios. And so that is something that is also requested by some of the clients to do more transparency so that in advance everybody knows what is going to happen with the index. And if you're trying to get your product into the market, if you're trying to come up with an idea for the index and make it tradable, you would be challenged, because here, for that particular segment, the market saturation has already been completed. There is not much room for that. And all those points lead us to the idea that there is a constant demand, and this is also growing, for creating specialized index products, additional index products, always more and more additional segments, while at the same time keeping all the best traits in there. And these are the traits that we were mentioning earlier: utility, clarity, possibility to be used as a benchmark, and also linkage to a tradable product. And this is something that we were transferring into our mission. And the mission here for the index services at dxFeed is to provide unique data-driven insight into modern financial markets by creating, calculating, and governing rich, referencing utility, informative, and reliable indices and benchmarks, and linked to tradability to allow everyone to profit from them. We've been doing this for several years already, and we've been working with some of the established exchanges already, and also new contenders that are trying to aggressively get into the market and compete with the established names here. So we are gathering both the standard experience, we have everything that we need to work with the established clients, and also be flexible enough to work with the new ones. But let us change our perspective a little bit so that we have a scenario that you, for instance, have an idea and for an index that could be theoretically linked to a tradable product. Then how would you approach that? So what do you need actually to do in order to make this happen? The first step is index design. It has to be an idea, and it also has to be appealing to somebody so that they would feel that link to the tradability. Remember, the S&P 500 is very good at that. Everybody knows what that is. After that, that idea and that appeal would be transferred into index construction, so that how exactly on a mechanical level this idea would be represented. And then the trading venue and all the processes related to that, operations and compliance, and many, many more. The next, once you're done with that, you have a methodology, for instance. You would need to perform backtesting on a wide variety of historical data to make sure that this is idea that stands the test of time. So you would be interested in the performance of these index or a benchmark, and you would be also interested in considering all the possible scenarios and calibrating perhaps the parameters of your model. After that, you would have to do data management to make sure that you are able to consume all the data that is needed to just build the index and then disseminate it in real time. And that is also related to the regulation, because there are strict rules to do that if you want to be trading this product on a SEC compliant exchange, for instance. If you are imagining that your index will be linked to a derivative, a future, or an option, then you will need something that is serving the needs of the specialized procedures for these asset classes, in particular, a settlement procedure. And that is something that we are able to do from the top of the list to the bottom of the list. And also, I wanted to mention that some customers are interested in not only the index itself, but also a so-called companion indicators on top of the index. These could be a value that is disseminated on top of the real-time index feed, but it carries additional information. For instance, a number of stocks in the index, if that's an equity index, that are currently under the index, under the hold, the trading hold. So if there are, say, 20% of the index is under hold, it is a good idea to consider holding the index altogether. On top of that, naturally, we support a lot of various combinations of frequencies, schedules, and a variety of access APIs and derived information on top of that. That's our main area of expertise. So for that scenario, if you're thinking about something that you can bring into the market and make it tradable, here we offer the whole package, basically. So end-to-end coverage for the index creation procedure, launch, and subsequent maintenance and governance of that. However, this is already an established area, so there are many players that do basically the same. So the thing that we started exploring is getting more and more, changing that perspective on what an index may be and how exactly it may look. And that brings us to an idea of custom indices. Custom indices may be falling into a variety of categories, but here, for the sake of this argument, I will be splitting them into market data and non-market data. So this is well known, and here's something that we already are doing for some of the clients. Naturally, equity index, the classics, the fixed income, FX, commodities, even futures and options, so indices based on futures and options. And they could be themselves referenced in directly tradable through different futures and options. So that's a bit of a recursion here. But anyway, crypto, that is something that is very, very dynamic right now in terms of indices, as this is a relatively new area. So there are some ideas that can be explored directly. And the interesting part here is non-market data indices. So macro, anything related to macro, not related to just a stream of prices, related to interest rates, the Fed rate, for instance, and also non-structured data of all sorts. It could be data for sales, profits, auction data, even tax rates, badly structured or not structured at all. So we're able to derive the quantity, build the model, and then pump out the result. An interesting point related to crypto, decentralized finance, is also something that is a very hot topic at the moment. For this scenario, where we have just a custom idea that does not really fit into anything, we allow our clients and everybody to profit from our data management expertise, and we can guarantee a high degree of flexibility, because we have seen basically all of those. It means that we have indices based on that, not just a static list. But last but not least, I wanted to mention that we are trying to always challenge the existing notion of what an index is and try to expand that and also bring something for a general audience. And that is why we are also doing custom benchmarks for industry and academia. Not necessarily related to tradability, but still very useful. And in that sense, I wanted to make this note that almost anything that you can be imagining can be turned into an index, and I will be showing some of the examples right now. We have an internally driven quant research group team that is trying to take that notion, that motto on top, turning anything into an index, and apply that to different scenarios. For instance, we've been working with the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland to come up with an idea and implement that idea that is something that is called an elite quality index. I will be just showing more on that in a second. The second idea I wanted to highlight is that an idea of combining many feeds into a single feed of enhanced quality can also be treated in terms of the index construction, naturally. So on that front, we are having something that is coming up actually tomorrow. A colleague of mine will be attending the conference, the online conference, Quant Insights. So it is free for participation. So if you'd like to see that, please go ahead and take a look at that. I won't be discovering too many details at this point, but this is something that we've been doing. And on top of that, you can also come up with an idea of a data feed, and in reaching that feed, adding more data on top of that. One example, prominent example that we drive internally would be something that is called an iceberg water detection model. So here for that is very, very custom, even more custom than the previous slide. And here we have some expert knowledge, and we would like to share that knowledge with everybody. And we think that this is also a part of our mission. We think that is very, very important to make sure that the whole infosphere of this planet is affected by what we do. Referencing the Elite Quality Index, that is something that we did as a collaboration. And you can go ahead and visit the website that they host. And there is also a yearly report that they do. This is a very nice representation of the underlying idea. The FX composite feed, I just mentioned that earlier. Go ahead and see that talk if you would like to know more. But basically, we have a lot of feeds for FX, illustrated OTC, lots of feeds of various quality, and we would like to conduct a mathematically correct and a mathematically established way of optimizing that stream for frequency and spread to arrive at an FX composite feed. Very interesting idea. Once again, a colleague of mine, Dmitry, will be speaking about this tomorrow. Our joint work on that is an iceberg detection that is related to market microstructure. So in this picture, just a highlight of that, everything is already published here, so you can see. Take a look at the Journal of Quant Finance, published relatively recently. Just as an appetizer, the blue line here is just time going from left to right, and this is the order flow. All the orders arriving at bid and ask, and within that flow, we're able to detect in real time orders that are bigger than they seem in the order book. Some exchanges allow you to do that. And not only we're able to detect that, but we're also able to predict what is the hidden size of the order. And that is something that also can be envisioned as an index. You see those bids and asks, and you can see the index of a hidden volume in the book being pushed out real time. Something relatively new. We haven't seen anything like that, but we're hoping to continue that research as well. All right, so I'm coming to the slide that summarizes everything that I just said. And for index construction, for index maintenance, we allow a lot. We offer 3 calculation platforms separated by each business case. We have a lot in terms of infrastructure. It may be hosted independently on premises or in cloud. We, as a market data provider, we already have readily available more than 2 million of instruments across all asset classes. There is an interactive exploration tool at our website that you can use to check if your favorite instrument is already there. It most likely is. We are already working with some of the big names, so we are able to provide all those good traits that are required from the index solution. And we've been working with regulation in the United States. So CFTC and OCC, this is already compliant with the requirements. So we know we have a hands-on experience of what does it mean to launch a tradable product on the index. All the classics are already included, so that's a part of our offering naturally, but we also allow for a high degree of customization for all the derived calculations that we support. And last but not least, I think we are flexible in that, so that we're able to just process the badly structured data in a relatively short time, and that also makes us stand out a little bit. We are headquartered in Munich, in the Highlight Towers, so if you're driving nearby, so feel free to come by and visit us. And also we have a booth here, so for more information about our index services, there is a dedicated website that you can see here, and there is also a general information on the dxFeed.com website and a knowledge base if you're looking to know more about what we offer. I think that concludes my talk for today. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please ask them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very interesting talk you had today. Are there any questions? Okay.
If not, then please feel free to find us. We are here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.